All right, good evening, everybody. So who here is an active real estate investor right now? Excellent, okay. And of you that have your hands up, who here does direct marketing to sellers?
That's why.
Okay, a lot of less people. Where's everybody else getting their deals from?
Direct mail.
What's that? Through direct mail? Aside from, if you're not marketing, where are you getting your deals from?
Craigslist.
Where? MLS. Okay, great. Where? Craigslist? Possibility. Okay. So 95% of sales happen on the MLS. What we're going to talk about today is not exclusionary from that MLS, but we're targeting motivated sellers directly and people that can find us those type of deals. So I put this silly looking graphic up here on the front page because I wanted to kind of get an image together of what you should be, how you should be interpreting the stuff that we're going to go over tonight. Nothing that I am going to show tonight is going to change your world. I'm giving you that right now, okay? There is no one push button system to, push a button and leads pop out and then you make $1 million. Marketing is a multifaceted, approach here that where we're going to put together a whole bunch of different types of marketing outlets, and if they're done well, they support each other. We're here for the long game, okay? So some of the things that you're going to be doing will have no immediate effect, but they're going to help your responses on direct mail. They're going to help your responses on AdWords marketing. They're going to help your responses on face-to-face, even Bandit Signs. When taken as a whole, the idea here is to kind of get rid of the noise. So you said you're doing direct mail, right? Okay. Once you get a response from a direct mailing piece, what's your next step? Do you go out and meet with the seller?
Yep, I've got my seller sheet.
Okay.
Down a list of questions, go out and meet with them. I pull comps first thing.
Sure.
I pull the information off the SDAT.
Good. No, you got to come up in the front of the room. I'm kidding.
Don't scare me.
All right. Okay. So, but anybody here that does direct mail, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but a lot of my acquisitions team has been having this more and more frequently. You send out a mailing piece, you get a phone call, lead set, guy walks in to negotiate the deal, and there's 25 postcards sitting on the countertop. It changes the game. Now, you're not competing against 2 or 3 other people and you know who they are. Now you're competing against 2 or 3 other real investors, and all the other people that are marketing are noise that are pushing up the price. What we want to do is separate ourselves from the competition so that when people call you, it's not a question of if they're going to use you. It just depends on working out the details. You got to create credibility in your marketing. You have to show that you can solve a problem. But ultimately, you want to touch them in so many different ways that when they actually realize you're advertising, every time they turn around, they see the name of your company, they see your face, they see all of this stuff coming together, okay? All right, so we're going to do this in 2 different ways. We're going to use, first I'm going to go into offline marketing. There are a million different ways to find motivated sellers. What? Got it. There's a million different ways to find motivated sellers. I'm just going to talk about the stuff that I'm doing right now and the stuff that I'm finding success with, okay? So offline is, we're in the real world. We're dealing with paper, we're dealing with people, and then I'll go into some online sources. So the first one here, we have direct mail. That's part of my repertoire. The second one, door knocking. Anybody here generate leads knocking doors? There we go. There's the richest man in the room, right back there. So listen, if you are a real estate agent and your broker hasn't told you to hit the streets and knock on doors, change your broker. Because it is a fantastic way to generate leads. And if you don't have money to pay for marketing, it is the best way to find leads, okay? So direct door-to-door canvassing, door knocking, it is definitely something that you should have in your repertoire. If you just have to choose one thing because of cost, I would choose that one. But, again, part of an entire system. Number 3 here, outbound calling. So direct mail, I got sick and tired of sending out direct mailing pieces and getting no response. I implemented a outbound calling room that's located in Cambodia. It's very inexpensive and is really, really effective. And at the end of the day, I get to hit people in a different way. Same list I'm marketing to with direct mail. We'll go into this in a minute. The last two, Bandit Signs, this is old and inexpensive. I see you shaking your head. Look, for the cost, if I find one deal a year, it's worth it, right? So, I mean, this is a supplemental thing that continues to go on, and for me, I like it, I use it. The last one, who here is looking to get into wholesaling? Okay, there's a heck of a lot of people here that didn't raise their hands. So right here, this is a great lead source. The good wholesalers are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on marketing to find great deals. You get the benefit by their, the scale at which they're marketing. Yeah, you know what, it's gonna cost you $10,000 or $20,000 to get a deal, but guess what? It's a heck of a lot cheaper than marketing for 6 months at 10 grand a pop, 10 grand a month and not getting any results. So, wholesalers, great outlet. All right, so let's look at these individually. Jason, thanks. All right, so direct mail is kind of a unique animal. For a very long time, I never sent a letter. Everything was postcard based. Everything was a yellow postcard that I used click to mail to create, send it out, and did it over and over and over and over again, and got decent results. As there's been more and more competition with people entering the market in wholesaling and as investors buying rentals or in flips, it's a little bit harder to get people's attention. So what I've done here is identified a couple lists that have been successful for me, and I'd like to kind of highlight a couple on this list, and then talk about the mailing pieces that I'm sending. They're a lot different than what I've sent in the past. So my number one mailing campaign, it's something that, if it's a matter of paying for a mailing campaign or paying the mortgage, I'm paying for the mailing campaign. It's my probate list. This gets marketed every month over and over and over and over again. These people are motivated sellers, but guess what? Everybody else is marketing to them. So depending on where you're located in Maryland here, a lot of times you can go online and pull the information to create the list. You can hire a VA to put that together, or you can meet somebody at one of these meetup groups that does that for a living. They'll go into into the county, put together the list, and then sell the list. Probates are great. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. If you have any questions, jump in here. If I talk and there's no dialogue, it's going to get pretty boring. All right. So probate is one of the lists. These are people. If you don't know, probate is what happens. It's the legal process of transferring the belongings of somebody that died to their heirs. Okay. Once this is filed, a lot of times, this is unearned equity in these properties. Okay. So they're inheriting the house. They're looking to unload it. There's motivation there. It takes a while. And a lot of times there's a lot of back and forth between siblings or family members fighting. You can really make a lot of money by solving those type of problems. Okay, so that's why I like the probate list. As I said before, I used to mail. Go ahead.
How do you find the probate list?
Okay, so the probate is a legal filing, right? So it changes like county to county, municipality to municipality. You got to find out if the information is easily accessible where you want to get it, right? In the area that you want to get it. There are lists out there that you can buy from national providers. They're not nearly as good. Those lists are not nearly as good as if you go down to the county courthouse and pull the records one by one, or better yet, hire somebody to do it, or find someone that's already doing it, pay them to do it, okay? But once you have the list, getting that information opened is really difficult. So I have two little tricks here. The first one is my first mailer has the stamp of the local county on the outside of the envelope. And so when I'm mailing it, these people are expecting to get information about probate, the estate that they probated or the will they probated in the mail. That stamp gets the letter opened quicker, right? It gets their attention. They open it up, and sometimes they're a little salty, and I get calls of people not really happy about it. But ultimately, I get my message in front of them, okay? The second mailer that I send is expensive. It is a 6-page letter that starts by explaining who I am and what I do and how much of a pain I am for contacting them at this sensitive time in their life, okay? And then I go on and say, well, you know, we deal with people a lot that they're having a tough time getting through the probate process. There's all these issues with the house, it's vacant, you know, we're worried about somebody breaking in, my brother's down my back. You're the administrator, I can solve this problem for you. But then from there, what I found is that my very best referrals and repeat clients, people that I bought a house from and then they referred all their friends and family, it always came when they came back to the house post-rehab. And so for the next 3 pages, I have a list of before and after pictures of projects that I did. And I say, you know, don't you remember when your mom really took care of this place? It was in great shape, you know? And that nostalgia, they want to see that house brought back to its prior glory. It gets their attention, builds credibility. My last 3 pages are lists of referrals and, you know, and positive comments about me and my company, the process, all that kind of stuff. It's a 6-page mailer. It's full color. I think it cost me like $1.85 to print and mail, which is really high when you're talking about direct mail. But my response rate's fantastic. It's because it gets opened, right? In all the noise, oh, by the way, I don't have these things folded. They're full pages. They go in a full, 9 by 12 envelope. And so when they receive it, it's like, man, this is a big package. I wonder what's in here. They open it up, they read it, and most of the time it goes in the trash. But the ones that don't, I'm building credibility, okay? Let's see here. There's 2 choices here. Now look, you have all these lists. Every list is, you can have a different message, different information. But let's just go down here. The vacant property list. The post office is the best place to find that. You got to dig, you got to ask, and sometimes you might want to talk to your local postman and just say, hey, you know, if you can help me out, I'm happy to pay you a referral. You can buy this list online, but it's not up to date, and you know the vacants are constantly changing in a lot of different areas. Go ahead.
You said post office?
Post office, yes. Vacant properties at the post office. Yep. Second one, probate. We talked about that. Non-owner occupied, high equity. This is the list that everybody's going to mail. It's one of the easiest to get a hold of. You're going to have the most competition here. You better stand out from the competition. Okay. Transitional neighborhoods. I love transitional neighborhoods. We're talking about. Yep.
How do you identify it?
You stole the words out of my mouth. Okay, so what I'm looking for are areas that there's a ton of construction or there's a ton of permits pulled in a certain neighborhood. You can see what's coming 3 to 6 months down the line just by the permit applications, and it's public information. You can get the information. Beyond that, you can see these neighborhoods changing. You know, Baltimore City, if you invest there, you've seen this, you know, firsthand. Starts with the artists. They move into the area because it's kind of cool and it's cheap. It's followed by students. Then we have the young professionals move in there. By the time you get the families, there's no money to be had. It's done. The best time to invest, if you're intuitive, is like when there's students there and no young professionals. The safe time to invest is between the students and young professionals. As you see that change, you'll see the building coming up. Usually, when you'll know that you got a pretty good foothold in these neighborhoods. That they are, you know, fully transforming when you start seeing new construction pop up. That means that price points are at a level where you'll see developers moving in, building new construction. I mean, it's much more expensive to build new construction than to rehab. So if the price will, you know, if the exit makes sense, you know, it's fair to assume that you've got a decent exit price there. I've had a lot of success recently with tax sale properties. You know, houses that there's unpaid taxes on, and finally there's a short time before they go to sale. This is a tough list because, I mean, this month I lost 3 houses that went to sale before we could close on them. You know, it happens. But you know, it's a very short time frame between contract and settlement. All right. And then foreclosures, Maryland's a little bit different. You can't really target foreclosure people in foreclosure. There's a lot of consumer laws to protect those people. So cross foreclosures off your list. But if you got to pick 2 or 3 of these, I look at transitional neighborhoods, probate, and tax sales is where I've had the most success.
How will you contact the tax
Okay, so the question was how are we contacting tax sales? You're jumping ahead of my presentation. And for this slide, we're targeting them with a mailing campaign. It might be a postcard, it might be a letter, it might be a package. The idea that whatever you're using, you got to separate yourself from the competition. And to directly answer your question, one contact is never enough. So we're going to try to contact them in multiple different ways.
Is there enough time? I think it's really
You better be fast. That's it. I mean, usually these people know that they're going to tax sale. Baltimore City is a little different. What is it, 30-day foreclosure for taxes? All right, so you go outside of Baltimore City, usually it takes a little bit longer. People are a little bit smarter that they're not going to just sit there and let their property go to tax sale. They'll delay it. A lot of these houses are on the list for a couple different sales and end up getting delayed, and they get to the point where they don't have many other options. That's when you come in and save the day. All right.
What time frame? What's the usual time frame for the tax sales? Is it like a week, a month, 20 days?
The question was, what's the time frame for a tax sale? It differs greatly from place to place to place. Find a target market, figure out where you want to be investing or where you want to be finding properties, and learn all the laws, learn everything about it. I mean, it's the same thing with building codes. It's the same thing with inspectors and all that kind of stuff. You really have to learn your local market. I mean, this conversation, I have another 20 minutes. I could be here for 3 more days talking about marketing. So we're kind of at the 10,000 foot view. All right, Jay, can you bump me? All right. Okay, door knocking. How many people in this room are terrified at the prospect of going up to a stranger's door, knocking on the door, and asking them to sell their house? Okay, so when I was in college, I started working at a home improvement company, and I started as a canvasser. And every day at 3:30, we went to the office. They threw us in a car, drive us out to a strange neighborhood, throw us out of the car, and said, "Come back with leads." And it was an hourly position, and every lead we got like $20, and there'd be daily bonuses where you could make $100, and at 19, 20, I'm like, great, it's beer money, it's great, So I think this is fantastic. I jump in the car, we drive out the first day, and my buddy is showing me around. He's getting me through the script, and I go up to my first door, and I knock on the door, and I'm a world beater. I'm ready to kill it. Woman comes to the door, and I froze. And it literally was like this, just staring. We're staring at each other, and my buddy's looking at me like, "What's going on here?" And 5 or 10 seconds doesn't seem like that long until you're staring at a stranger at their front door in silence. And it's like, that was the worst it got. People chase me off the front lawns. I look stupid sometimes. But who cares? Like at the end of the day, that's as bad as it gets. It's not so bad. It could be a heck of a lot worse. Get over your fear. It's all about repetition. If you go out and knock doors and are not afraid of it, even if you are afraid of it and you go out and knock doors anyway, within a week it'll be gone. You'll be fine. All right, get through a week. So that's the first thing. Pick a target market. We were started getting into that. Targeting your market is the most important thing with canvassing. You want to be known in that neighborhood as the only person that will knock on their door. If you walk down the street and the people hanging out on the street don't know you've not canvassed enough. Hit the doors again. Hit the doors again. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be the kind of thing that you say, every Saturday, I'm going out for 4 hours. And not for 5 minutes, 4 hours. Put it down there, get out of the car, and knock doors. I recommend 3 days a week, 4 to 8 in the evening, or 10 to 2 on Saturday. That's when most people are home and you're going to get the best results. So what do you say when you knock on the door? Remember, we're trying to find motivated sellers to sell us their property at a humongous discount. So what do you say at the door?
Who do you know that's looking to sell their home?
Bingo. That guy gets a t-shirt. All right. So that's the thing. If you go up to somebody, and it could be the ugliest house, half the house could be falling down and somebody's sticking out the front, the front door, standing on the front door. If you go up to them and say, "Hey, how about selling me your house?" All of a sudden their walls are going to go up. But guess what? If you're giving away $500, all of a sudden the door opens up a little bit. Let me hear a little bit more about this. I learned this the hard way. I had a wholesaling company in Philadelphia for a couple years, and am I way too long? Okay. And we had canvas crews that went out and hit all the, pretty much anywhere we wanted to invest in Philadelphia. It was 8 guys every day, 6 days a week, and we generated a ton of leads. Literally 100 to 150 leads every week. When we started, our approach was, hey, can we buy your house? We had 0 leads. As soon as we started talking about referrals and helping your neighbors, and we're finishing up a project around the corner, and I wanted to stop by because we're looking for your help. If you can help me, I want to pay you. I'll give you $500. I'll give you a $1,000 referral on every house that we buy. Now, if you're an agent, you can't do this. Keep that in mind. You got to get creative and come up with some other pitch. But the idea here is get people talking. You want them to know who you are. And if your target market, if you saturate it well enough, they'll see you coming down the street and say, listen, my cousin's ready to sell. Where have you been? Right? I mean, really, that kind of stuff happens. But it's a long game. If you try to close, if you're trying to close the deal on the front steps, it happens, but it doesn't happen most of the time. You got to get in there, talk to people, build a relationship. You have a question? Oh, sorry. All right. Questions about canvassing? Anybody?
Well, actually, yes. Can you legally tell a neighbor, I'm going to give you $500,000 if you give me a lead?
You can tell them anything you want. You can tell them anything you want. I mean, look, if you are a licensed agent, first of all, it's likely against the law.
No, I'm not a real estate agent.
Right. So that's a conversation between you and the potential seller. Have the conversation. That's it.
Can you put it in writing?
I mean, I would.
Legally?
Yeah. I don't know. And if I knew, I wouldn't answer the question. All right. So let's move on. We'll talk about that at the round table. All right. Okay. Outbound calling. All right. So I got sick and tired of our direct mail reaching people, getting thrown in the trash can. Response rates kept going down and down and down, and telemarketing used to be a thing. Then we all got cell phones, and nobody answers the phone anymore. Believe it or not, though, people still pick up the phone. So outbound calling is huge. It has significantly increased our response from the lists that we're using. I use the exact same list for outbound calling that I use for direct mail. It's the exact same people. We're just targeting them in a different way. So when they got the postcard, when they got the postcard, they didn't want to hear about it. But then they got a phone call, and Maria from TCS called and said, hey, I sent you out this postcard last week. Did you get it? No, I didn't get it. Well, let me email you something. Right there, there's 3 touches in the course of a week. They get a postcard, they get an email, they get a phone call. The key to outbound calling is the exact same key, or the key to success for outbound calling is the exact same key to success for door knocking, and that is consistency and persistency. The quantity of times that you're contacting these people is very important. You ought to be touching them at least 10 times. Now, go ahead. I'm not giving away all the secrets today. So I'll point you in the right direction, okay? So here's the thing. Outbound calling, I have in-house outbound callers, and then I have overseas outbound callers. Last week, we made 753 calls from my office. That's 3 people making calls. Last night, we made 2,000 calls from the Philippines. I interview every single outbound caller, and you know what? There's going to be a small accent, but it is almost indistinguishable. Almost indistinguishable, okay? The real benefit here is that their cost is obscenely low. You're looking at $3 to $7 an hour to make 1,000 calls a day in an 8-hour shift. That is a huge response. I mean, that is a heck of a lot better of getting on the phones, making calls, than having somebody in my office, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper. So I would recommend outsourcing, okay? Varying the message, so, go ahead.
How successful has that been for you?
Very. It's been, the outbound calling has done much better than direct mail. And I'm not big on being on the phone and making the calls myself. I wouldn't recommend that unless you work in an outbound calling facility and that's what you do for a full-time job. Otherwise, it takes a special person to sit on the phone and dial and dial and dial all day, every day. What's that? Well, okay. So that's where I'm going here. So you got to vary the script. You got to vary the message that you're talking to them about. You vary the message because remember we're hitting these people 10 different times. In the beginning, we're reaching out to make sure that they got the postcard, and then we're going to follow up on the email, and from there we're just going to straight pitch. If we reach these people and they're not responsive, then let's just go get to the bottom line. Would you be interested in selling your house? Do you know anybody that's looking to sell? It's the same type of pitch over and over and over again, but you want to vary it so that when you talk to people, you're approaching them from different angles all the time.
I was curious about outbound calling as far as automation.
In what way? Automated, like the phone numbers dial themselves?
Using an automated system.
Okay, so there's two, there's actually 3 different services that we use. We use CallRail to track as tracking numbers and to get local numbers. If you are targeting a different area of the country, make sure you get a local number as the caller ID. It can still, when they call it, it can still come right to your phone or right to the somebody to answer it. But it's getting a local number is a heck of a lot. We get a better response rate from it. Beyond that, that's to track the calls. The second is Mojo Dialer. It's at mojosells.com. It's a fairly inexpensive online dialer, predictive dialer. So you upload the information, push a button, and it starts dialing. And if they pick up, great, you have a connection. If it goes to voicemail, you have a pre-recorded voicemail that automatically drops right into their voicemail. You don't have to sit there and have the caller leaving a voicemail. You can control all of the content that's going to that person. They even have the option to have like three-line dialer. You probably have been sitting there sometimes, got an inbound call. All right, I'm getting yelled at here. I'm running out of time. So, any questions on outbound calling? Okay. Jason, next one, please. It's there. Okay. Bandit Signs. Keep this in your target area. Go back once a week after you put them all up. Half of them will be down. Keep them up. You'll get responses. You go from there. It's not a huge response play. This is something that it just so happens that Bob that lives down the street drives past one of your signs, 5 minutes after he heard he was going to lose his house. That kind of thing. It happens. It's just not frequent. Okay? Wholesalers. All right. So who here buys deals from wholesalers? All right. Most people that are just getting in the business, if you're looking to flip houses, they overlook wholesalers because they think their fees are too expensive. It's very short-sighted, and it's just not true. If the property's priced too high, that's one thing. But just because they're making 50 grand on a wholesale fee doesn't mean it's a bad deal. Building a relationship with these wholesalers can become your only source of deals. Your marketing budget's zero. Your time invested in the marketing is zero. You build a relationship with the wholesaler, and guess what? A lot of times, I have guys that before they run a lead, they're going to call me, give me an address, and ask me what I can pay for it, so they can build on their margin, and I can still get the deal on my numbers. That's the kind of relationship that you want with your wholesalers. These people are part of your team. And the bigger they are, the more they want to deal with less BS. They want to deal with somebody that they know is going to close, is going to close when they need to, and they're going to be able to throw deals to them that have to close at the last minute. I tell every wholesaler, use me as a backup buyer. Jason and Chris funded a deal for me. I found out that I could buy the property on Friday night at 7 o'clock. We had to close on Tuesday afternoon, and it was a $330,000 property. That was the acquisition. The construction was 125 grand. So, I mean, we had to come up with money quick, but guess what? This was on a deal that didn't close that Friday at 375, and I bought it at 330 2 days later. I got it at my number, and it was a great deal, right? And it's only because of my relationship with the wholesaler. So a couple things. Where do you find these people? Any ideas where to find people? You can read the slide up there. The answer's up here.
Events like this.
Where at?
Events like this. Events like this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Events like this. Absolutely.
Bandit Signs.
Bandit Signs. Yeah, you can, for sure. For sure. So one of the, I kind of stumbled on this. I mean, it seems pretty clear right now, but there was a time when I didn't really look at anybody else's deals. I just wanted to market and get my thing. But I had an idea that maybe I'll start a marketing campaign to wholesalers. And so to build this list, I had a VA Google We Buy Houses. All of a sudden, I have 150 contacts for people that can afford to market and be on the first, second, or third page of Google. These are the type of people that I want to be in contact with because they're getting the leads. In addition, every time I go to a networking event, I'm grabbing cards. I want these wholesalers on my list. I want people that are going to be able to bring me deals. It doesn't matter how experienced they are or not experienced they are. Some of the very best deals I've gotten were from new investors that stumbled on a property, and I just happened to be there at the right time. All right, last thing on wholesalers. If you get on a wholesaler's list and you want them to recognize you, respond to every single email. If they send you a bunch of properties, respond, say, not quite the deals I'm looking for. Here's where I'm looking for properties. It starts a dialogue. Now all of a sudden they get a deal in the neighborhood that you're looking for, and they're calling you first because you've been right in front of them. Okay? All right. So that's it for offline marketing. Let's look at online marketing. Okay, so most people gravitate to online marketing right now. Why? Because it's a lot less uncomfortable than going and knocking on doors, right? It's a lot less expensive, can be, than going out and doing a bunch of direct mail. But it's also a lot less personal. So we're going to go over these online marketing sources. They're more secondary. These are the things that create a big difference, where people that can see a big difference between you and everybody else. This is where we're going to educate them. All right, next one, Jack, please. All right, so Facebook. Who here is not on Facebook? Anybody? Okay. Great. So we're all on Facebook. It's probably a pretty decent way to get in touch with people. This is the internet now. Facebook is essentially the internet. Couple ways. Number one, a couple years ago, websites used to be like the thing that you needed if you had a real business. Right now, if you don't have a Facebook fan page, you don't really have a real business, because this is where people are going to go and look. Second thing, the purpose of your online space with Facebook is to build your brand. So what do I mean by that? We're generating motivated seller leads, right? We want to attract people with different problems, because that's really the business we're in. We're in the business of solving problems. So maybe I'll make a video on how we can help people that are going through probate, right? Here are some of the basics that can happen in the probate process. Here's how the process looks. Here are some of the pitfalls. Here's how you can prevent those pitfalls. Then I've got somebody in the middle of a tax sale. How can I help them stop the tax sale on their house, or the foreclosure, or any number of different reasons that people would want to sell their home. And I'm making videos on this. I'm creating content that's free and is not a sales pitch. So one of my businesses is I provide turnkey investments for investors from around the world. My very best clients stumble on a Facebook ad. And then they go to the Facebook page and they see all these videos, and then they end up on YouTube. And they see, 1,000 videos on YouTube, and they start watching them. And now a year later, they've been on my website, they've been to YouTube, they've been to Facebook, they've researched me. By the time I talk to them, it doesn't really matter who else is in the space. I'm the only one there, right? Because they trust me. They've had conversations and thoughts with me on what I'm saying, right? So building that brand, it's a long play. It's not going to change things overnight. But you make a video today, you do another one tomorrow, you do another one the next day. Before you know it, you have 1,000 videos floating out there. Okay, that's brand building. Direct response. This is like the kind of pay-per-click type deal. Click here, fill in the information, get a free offer on your house. Okay. Retargeting, this is a big one. If anybody ever goes to your website or goes to your fan page, they ought to have a pixel installed on their browser, which allows you to remarket to them. You have all had this experience because you've been to the Hard Money Bankers website. If you've been, right? You go there, you check out, oh, okay, there's a meetup here, I end up on their website. Now I go to YouTube and there's a Hard Money Bankers ad. And I go to 50,000 random websites and they all have a Hard Money Bankers ad. It's because there's a pixel on the website that was downloaded, or a cookie on the website that's downloaded into your browser. And so basically, imagine these people click on an ad, they go and check you out, you check out your website, or better yet, you send them a mailing piece, or call them. What's the name of your company again? What's your website? They go to the website and they start reading good information, start watching a couple videos on their website. Now they forget about you totally. But they go on Facebook and there's ads with your company name. Then they go on YouTube and there's ads with your company name. You do the same thing with Google and you look like you're omnipresent and you can be a one-man band. All right? So that's retargeting. Lookalike audiences, as you begin to get leads and you know what your seller looks like. I mean, look, there are certain groups of people that like me more than others. It just so happens that I'm pretty good with elderly women. You know, I mean, that just happens to be where like my best responses and my best negotiations come from. Well, if I have a list of, let's say, 300 sellers that have sold me a property or that I've contracted, I can upload that list onto Facebook. Facebook's going to go out and find other people that have the same kind of user patterns as these people that I did business with, and we can target them. You can also upload a specific list. We've got these lists, right? The same list that we direct mailed and we called. If you have an email address, you can upload those lists onto Facebook, and you can create very specific targeted ads to these same people. So you're hitting them over and over and over and over again. Okay? Next slide, please. Second was Google. If you've got really deep pockets and are not afraid of competition, dump your money in Google search. I mean, it's a great way to generate leads. It's expensive. I had a budget when we first got started, like $7,500 a month, and we were paying maybe $2 or $3 a click. Now it's like $5, $7, and up. It's a very competitive space. I wouldn't do keyword advertising. What I would do though are display ads. Anybody here market on or advertise on YouTube? Oh, come on. There's one. All right. I hate the little ads that play before videos on YouTube. I bought something from one of those ads last week. Because if it's a good ad, it's a good video, I'm going to watch it. If it's junk, I'm going to click off. If you're creating good content and creating good ads, you can get a ton of views on YouTube and a ton of eyeballs on what you're trying to sell or buy or whatever. And they're very expensive. They're inexpensive. They're 4 or 5 cents a view. I mean, so you do the math. You can have tens of thousands of people looking at what you're trying to do or looking at your message for very inexpensive costs. You can also, one thing I really like about YouTube, I forgot what it was, so we're going to move on. Sorry. So, you can geo-target. So basically, you can target a specific neighborhood, a specific area, and you can also do that with Facebook. Retargeting, same thing that we talked about with Facebook. You create an ad on Google. Everywhere that they use Google AdSense, your ad will display for people that have gone to your site. Okay. All right. Voice broadcast. This is awesome. If you just do, we had a bunch of just do one things. Slide broadcast, okay. Who here has gotten a recorded message on their phone? Like somebody calls you, you pick up and it's a recorded message, right? How annoying is that? It's the worst. You know what's better? Have you ever been sitting, working in your office or watching TV and all of a sudden your phone buzzes and you have a message. Your phone didn't even ring. And you pick up and there's a great message there from, John from AT&T, because you stopped in last week and wanted to see if you're going to come in and buy this new phone, whatever it is. Slide broadcast allows you to deliver a message straight to voicemail without the phone ever ringing. And if you record the right message, like, hey, this is Josh Weidman. Remember we talked last week, or we talked a couple weeks ago about you selling your property. I just wanted to see if anything has changed on your end, or if you wanted to discuss the process. Give me a call back. My number is 215-555-1212. Sounds like a really personal message. Sounds like I called them specifically and left a message. But I can broadcast that out to 3,000 people in my database that I've met with over the last 10 years. And the ones that want to talk to me will pick up the phone and call. Right? I like using this to test a new list. If nobody calls me back, I know it, like either my message is awful or I shouldn't be doing direct calling. All right, last but not least, and this is really very, very important. Anybody here have a business and not a website? Okay. Who here has a business and a website? Okay. All right, you put your hand up. I'm going to pick on you. Sorry. What's the purpose of your website? Okay. What is the purpose of your website?
Right now, it's just before and after pictures.
Okay, that's good enough. All right. When you're setting up your website, from day one, know that there are only two reasons for you to have a website. To inform people or to sell people. It's one of the two, and they're not the same website. Okay? So if you have an information website, you're going to provide free value. All those videos that we talked about making, about those social media posts, about how to go through the probate process or whatever, all those videos are on there. There's information about me that makes me different than my competition. There's information about my kids, my partners, my projects that we're doing. Things that are building credibility for me. So again, I'm sending a piece of mail, I'm sending an email, I'm posting on Facebook, they're hitting a Google ad, takes them back to the website, they get more information, and now they're getting 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 impressions with my company over and over and over again, so that by the time they call me and the other 5 people, it's a laydown. I'm walking in there, and each step in the process, I'm building more value in what we're able to provide. And now we're not talking about numbers. We're not negotiating about the price. We're negotiating about the value that I'm bringing and into solving their problem. Okay? All right, let's see here. If you are going to sell, if you're creating a lead generation page, I would use a service like ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is a platform where you can create and customize a website, but more importantly, you can set up automated email and social marketing based on the responses and the signups on that form. Okay, they can be very detailed. They can be very. It can be a very complex website, or it can be really simple. But the idea is get them sign up for a free report or a free video or some information, and then continue to target them in a funnel to take them from an interested party to a seller. Okay, that's it. All right, I'm out of here. Sorry.